An idea to explore. I like to believe that our absolutely first act of creation in our life takes place before we enter this world. I like to think, especially in challenging moments in life, that I chose the path of life for myself. That as a soul, I love myself so deeply and profoundly that I chose the life made to measure my own capabilities, and that this choice was based on my highest good and my highest potential. It took me a while to get to this point. There was a time in my life when I would say about myself that I went to the bottom of the hell and back. And sometimes I still wonder how I managed to come back. When we are experiencing emotions, going through a crisis or trauma, recognizing this truth or idea of life can be very difficult. Sometimes it feels like we are running out of air and we can't breathe because we keep these emotions buried deep inside, trying to control them. We do this to avoid going through that crisis or trauma again. And instead of letting go, we carry that experience and those emotions like a very heavy baggage, just to avoid reliving what was difficult. And while being in this emotional loop, we often forget that what happened in our life has already happened, and we've already lived through it, and we did survive it. And we are not aware that we keep it alive by holding on to those suppressed emotions and forgetting that the freedom we long for is actually within our reach. My name is Niramaya, and I am a healer who lives in the middle of the jungle. At the same time, while living in the heart of the jungle, I also live next to a very busy road, which you may hear in the background. Currently, I am in the Central America, surrounded by people for whom the Polish language and my last name sounds a little bit crazy. Therefore, I have decided to take the name Niramaya. The name Niramaya comes from Latin and it means being free from sickness. I am very happy to welcome you to this YouTube channel, and I hope you will make yourself comfortable here in this healing space which has been created specially for you. So, I like to think that I have chosen my life path by myself. This thought, this idea, especially when things get tough, brings me peace. Because it means that on the soul level, this choice had a purpose that often defies logic. And that happens because, according to the teachings of Dolores Cannon, when we are coming into this world, we forget what we have planned for ourselves. And that in itself can be very difficult already. When we perceive ourselves as entirely independent individuals, recognizing certain patterns or life lessons becomes straightforward. However, despite each of us being absolutely unique and one of a kind, we are not lonely islands. From my perspective, this idea of life is like a dance, like a delicate balance between grounding oneself and embracing one's independence, while in the same time being connected to others. And in my perspective, it's really important to understand this, because it's super easy for us to acknowledge that others influence us, and it's absolutely more challenging to accept that we also influence other people. And to make it even more complicated, The way we create our reality is deeply connected with the emotions we experience, so the known emotions, the emotions we are aware of, and the emotions we hold back within us. And of course, since we are not the lonely islands, our emotions interact with the emotions of other people. In this way, we create emotional connections. And now, it's important to remember that just as there are no two identical life paths, there are also no two identical emotional reactions or experiences. And what does it mean? If we will take any event and focus only on the facts, knowing what happened, it's super easy and becomes super straightforward. But when we will dive into the hearts of the people participating in this event, suddenly it becomes clear that each one of them had the entirely different experience and perspective of what just happened. And when people who share that experience have feelings for each other and are emotionally involved, this dynamic becomes even more complex. And coming back to the beginning and to the idea of life, that we are actually choosing our life path, it also means that we are choosing the adventures and obstacles, and we choose our loved ones, and also we choose the people with whom we will experience our most challenging life lessons. And it all happens in the same time. We are independent beings and we are connected to other people, same as we are connected to our planet and to the world which is unfolding around us. Yet the world we are living in is very intense and bustling. We live in a highly intense times. Every single time we turn on the television and watch the news or jump into the social media, we learn that something just happened in the world. And the narrative around the global events is loaded with very strong emotions which are affecting us. We also live in a very busy times where everyone is rushing somewhere or trying to catch something. Sometimes we are chasing our career, money, sometimes health, relationship, or just our dreams. My point is that we are running. And as human beings, when we are in a hurry, we have a tendency to forget that we have emotions to feel. And sometimes we go on the autopilot mode just to survive the day. It's easier that way. And we suppress our emotions to reach our goals as quickly as possible, forgetting that the journey, not the destinations, is what truly matters. And when we will finally allow ourselves to stop for a moment, we suddenly realize that the emotional baggage we have accumulated along the way is quite substantial. And to release those emotions safely, sometimes we need energy healing, therapy. Sometimes our emotions are manifesting as sickness and we need medical attention. And sometimes all we need is a conversation with a person who is not emotionally invested in our lives and our experience. Because in a process of releasing emotions, the goal is not to make those past events stronger, rather to allow them to flow freely, bringing the emotional freedom. In the same time, the world we live in is also a space where a great amount of healing takes place. It's like we all have heard a calling that awakens us to experience life and to feel the life which is flowing through us. Same as our planet is raising its vibrations and it joins us on this healing journey. That's the reason why more and more healing arts are actually appearing in our reality. To survive this emotionally intense time, each of us needs support. And now, I won't reveal anything groundbreaking by saying that everything in this world is energy. Energy that is vibrating all the time. Whether we are talking about humans, animals, plants, or rocks in a river, everything is energy. And words or emotions we hold within us are no exceptions here. Same as we can feel, literally, sunlight on our skin on a warm, sunny day, even though we can't see it with our own eyes, words and emotions also touch us in a literal sense. The energy of emotions infiltrates us and our body, either causing the flow when we experience joy or love, or causing a blockage when we suppress emotions like sadness, anger, frustration, or emotional pain. That's why it is so critical to release what has been suppressed, held back within us. I haven't met a person in my journey who hasn't had at least one life experience they would rather sweep under the rug. Each of us has aspects of ourselves that we would rather not show to someone we love. And when we come back to those difficult events or emotions in our thoughts or memories, we often forget that the path to emotional freedom involves recognizing and integrating what we have been trying so hard to hide. But what does it actually mean to integrate what's deeply hidden? I could sum it up in one sentence, that integrating unwanted or challenging aspects of ourselves means acknowledging our own humanity. Every one of us, regardless the role we choose to play in this life, is human. Every one of us. And every one of us is a part of social groups that have certain expectations towards us. And when we are passively going through life in line with others' expectations, we construct an idealized image of ourselves. Because we kind of anchor ourselves in all those I shouldn't or I can't, and we slowly lose our voice and authenticity. And at the same time, by suppressing what we perceive as unacceptable for others, we relinquish control over our lives and we give up the power of the creation. However, when we acknowledge that we are actually humans and that we have the right to experience ourselves and the world which is around us in line with what's in our hearts, we reclaim our humanity. Every single experience, as my dear friend Gosia Listvan once said, teaches us the truth about ourselves. And we learn about ourselves through our entire lives. And every time we allow ourselves for a moment of self-reflection, we can uncover new aspects of ourselves that we weren't aware before. I have a habit of mine that when I speak to a larger audience, the examples I provide come from my own life experience. However, during the individual sessions, your story takes a center stage. Examples are important because discussing the healing process and emotional release without providing examples, even though the words are true, might come across as empty and unnecessary information to a busy mind. Because our mind loves proof. Here it is, a very small part of my story. There was a time in my life when I used to say about myself that I went to the bottom of the hell and back. And sometimes I am still finding myself looking back and wondering how on earth I did manage to find the way back. And despite the fact that the whole healing process took a while, the final step towards myself happened in the blink of an eye. And it happened at the moment when I at least expected it. One evening, I simply sat on the deck and closed my eyes for a moment. I drifted away, in my thoughts, somewhere far, far away. And when I allowed myself to do so, when I stopped fixing myself, trying to correct things, and forcing myself back to the present moment, when I simply accepted the place in life where I was at that specific moment, Suddenly, the illusion that had been fogging my mind and the view of the reality and my perception of the reality fell away. I saw the reflection of myself in other people, and because of this, the stories I used to tell myself in my mind, because he did that, she did that, stopped being about others and finally became about me. I actually felt that what used to trigger me so much in other people was actually an aspect of myself that I didn't want to acknowledge. Because it's undoubtedly easier to see negative aspects in other people, and it is much harder to acknowledge them within ourselves. And at that moment, all those "because it's not proper to" started to disappear. I told myself, Niramaya, I accept you as you are, wholly and completely. I did acknowledge the shame within me that lingered after experience of violence and sexual assault. I did recognize me being naive and attached to the patriarchal patterns that led me to the jump over the ocean to look for love and salvation outside of myself when I could only truly find them within myself. I understood that the words of forgiveness, "I forgive you," which I was repeating like mantra, in reality were a conversation with myself. I also did acknowledge the humiliation coming from experiences of hunger and homelessness, and I also recognized the fear within me that had previously blocked me and whispered in my ear, "You shouldn't speak openly about such experiences." I realized that all those emotions and all that pain were and are a part of me and my life's journey. And finally, I did embrace my humanity, because partially acknowledging ourselves only in positive aspects is a form of a self-deception. If we don't accept ourselves entirely, it is as we don't acknowledge ourselves at all. But on the other hand, the beauty of such acceptance of what was previously perceived or deemed as unacceptable is when those emotions come to light, they lose their control over us and over our life. And in this way, we are coming back to the flow of life and we are reclaiming our emotional freedom. While working with people in individual sessions, I have the privilege to observe the incredible power of being heard. When we have the opportunity to express previously unspoken words in an energetically safe space and to release that painful energy, then these unspoken words, painful memories and painful past events are released and replaced with the healing energy, and we are getting a chance to come back to the flow of life and to the light. When the person who listens is fully present and free from emotional involvement, the past events are no longer energetically or emotionally fueled, and the vicious circle finally comes to an end. What happens is that the energetic support we receive leads to the replacement of the energy of the past events with the healing energy. The ability to listen with emotional and energetic support is one of my gifts I came into this world with, and it's a gift I am now offering to you in the empathetic listening sessions. To close the karmic cycle, as Dolores Cannon teaches us, all we need to do is to let go of what happened in our lives and forgive others and ourselves. This is, in the same time, the most challenging but also the quickest path to emotional freedom.